permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred shout.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Welcome to episode 463 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, September 5th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. And joining us from Onyxia's lair, we have Dragonrider. Welcome.
Hello.
Hope you're doing well.
I am. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Wicked and Magesa both are... They are well in the sense that they are not sick of an illness, but they are quite busy. So it just kind of life stuff got in the way. And fortunately, Dragonrider accepted when I was like, hey, I need help. So, so she will be joining me to go over the bit of news we have and then mostly just talk about cards, because in that news, we have a mini set. So this week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, Tyler Knife, and SSJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, Mad K17 and Keith. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and of course help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So to start off, do you prefer I call you Dawn or Dragonrider?
Honestly, either one. I'm
Okay.
hoping that people know me by kind of both interchangeably by now.
Uh-huh. Well, we're going to go with Dawn because it's fewer syllables. So, Dawn, for people who may not know you, if you could just give us kind of a brief background of how you got into Hearthstone and what you do in the scene.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So how I got into Hearthstone, let's see, I've been playing since beta at this point. So it's been 10 and a half years actually, because I remember I started in January of 2014 during beta. So yeah, 10 and a half years. I can't believe it already. But it's been a journey, and I've done a lot of different stuff in that time, I guess. But the way that I found it is I grew up playing card games like the Pokemon card game and Magic the Gathering, like learned how to play and was playing those at like 8 years old. And I also grew up playing Blizzard games like StarCraft and like the original and Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, all the good classics.
Yep.
And so I kind of had the Blizzard background and the card game background. And then, I don't know, one day, like I got an email, like basically Blizzard being like, hey, do you want to try our new card game? And I was like, yes. And I have never stopped. So that's been a journey.
So you've been playing longer than I have, because I think I missed like the beta part. I played since before Naxxramas, but I missed that sort of beta window. I had friends in college who were like, hey, you like Magic. You know what? There's not a great way to play Magic online, because that time there was no Magic Arena. It was just Magic Online, and that was very janky. So they were like, but there's this new card game, Hearthstone. And I was like, I don't know, a Warcraft card game. I liked the real-time strategy, but I've never been a WoW person. But eventually it got its hooks in me, just because you can play it anywhere, right?
Yeah. And that was before they came out with mobile too, because mobile didn't even come out till a couple of years in.
Yeah.
So,
well, is there anything in particular that you maybe have going on right now that you want people to know about, or other shows you're on, perhaps?
Oh, yes. I guess that's part of what I do in the scene too, is kind of some of everything. I think it's at this point probably easier to list things I don't do, which I'm not sure even what that is. But Yeah, I am the CEO and founder of Amberflight Gaming, which is my esports team and organization. We are actually coming up on 5 years in November. Can't believe it's been
Wow.
5 years already. I know. So I love running that team, and I love the people on the team. We're obviously have some creators and some players involved in Hearthstone. But we also have people who do Magic the Gathering. We have people who do Disney Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited. So there's like a heavy card game influence there. And we also have people who do Pokemon and Pokemon VGC specifically. So a couple people, if anybody's kind of an OG around, I think this podcast specifically and THL, they might recognize the name Nails. Yep,
Uh-huh.
Nails. Yep, he's on AFG, but he does VGC now. He's been doing that for a few years, so uh, it's pretty cool. And then I do the Doctor 3 HS podcast. We talk about standard Hearthstone,
Mhm.
and also the TCCG Roundtable, where we just talk about a bunch of different card games, both physical and digital card games. So it's fun.
It's a really rich space these days.
Yes, it is.
There's
Yeah,
quite a few.
there's never a lack of content, that's for sure. Have a good mix of like, oh, hey, it's time for reveals for this card game and this card game and this card game and oh, this card game's starting up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now it's time for competitive stuff for this game and this game and this game, and then the in between we can maybe squeeze in some like evergreen topics talking about card game strategies and stuff in general, and it's a lot of fun, and it's been really interesting the last year and a half, I'd say, especially just since things like Disney Lorcana and Star Wars Unlimited have started up, and there's even more there. We cover indie games too, so there's a whole bunch of like smaller card games that are starting up and try to get into the space, and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so many.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to get into Lorcana and like I bought some starter packs and stuff, and then I'm just like, I have a newborn. I cannot go anywhere or do anything. So as soon as if they ever make a digital Disney Lorcana, I'll be all over that. But unfortunately,
Yeah.
they finally got wind or decided to do something about the amazing person who had been running a digital version of Lorcana. Um, like I think
Yeah.
that person sort of knew that it was only a
Yeah.
matter of time how long this tool would last. But while it lasted, it was great. People could
Yeah.
play as if they had all the cards right online, and it was a great system. But
Yeah.
yeah, Disney not known for letting copyright things fly.
Yes, understandable. I'm honestly surprised that it got to go as long as it did. But
Yeah.
yeah, digital, for people who have kids or are very limited in time, or people like me who live in smaller areas where we don't really
Mhm.
have like a card game scene. Tell you
Yeah.
what, online has tremendously made card gaming possible, and that is amazing because it's like my entire life. I love card games. So yeah, being able to actually like play online and do that kind of stuff has been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and just last thing, if people want to follow up on any of this stuff, where can they find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm all over. I'm on Twitter or X, I guess we're calling now. I don't know. I still call it
Nah,
Twitter.
nah, it's Twitter.
Okay, it's Twitter. Perfect. Good. All right. I'm on there at Donnie DK, DAWNIEDK. And then Twitch and YouTube, Dragonrider TCCG, and of course the podcast that I just listed. So
Yep.
yeah, you can definitely find some stuff there, including a Star Wars card reveal for set 3. That's going live on my
Oh,
YouTube and Twitter tomorrow on Friday.
amazing. Well, that wraps it up for the brief interview, unless you got anything else you want to add. So we'll just dive right into Life and Ladder. I told you before we started recording, I have been just like up to my ears in Dungeons and Dragons stuff because I am running my groups. I am being the game master for the first time for my group in a couple weeks. Actually, the first the like character building session is going to be on my birthday, and I've realized that both I love this and it's incredibly dangerous for me because I'm just like I'm in full world building and like making people's backstories tie into the plot and everything. Like I'm using an out of the box adventure. Like they've given me material and I'm just like, yes, but I need to add to it. And it's a lot of fun, but I've also like just gone down the rabbit hole in terms of D&D content. So I'll have some hot takes and instant reactions on the card reveals because I've spent less time with Hearthstone this week. Still been doing like dailies. Played some Blood Decay. You can blame Wicked for that. He found a list, was doing well with it, and I can't resist. I know that's kind of the opposite of the decks you enjoy, but so maybe we'll spare everyone talking about that and get into what you've been doing in life in Hearthstone.
Did you say in no life? Because that's what it feels like I have right now.
Oh no.
I don't know. It feels like I've been so busy that like the life of my card games is like it's very sad. It's very sad right now.
Oh no.
But it's been good. Last weekend, AFG, we held our first like in-person charity fundraising event. So myself, Basting, and Linny, for people who know them, the three of us ladies, we actually were all in person, and we were at a bingo hall in Casper, Wyoming. We got to play bingo, and we sold some like homemade dog treats and some homemade sugar cookies and stuff, and raised money for a animal shelter there. So that was very, very fun, very exciting. But I did, just as you were kind of talking about going very deep and getting like prepared for your being a game master. I kind of did that same thing. I feel like I almost went a little overboard in trying to prepare for that charity event, but it was good. It went well and it was very fun. So that was exciting. But then, of course, afterwards, my body was like, no, now you need to rest for 3 days because you overdid it. So I've spent most of this week resting.
And, it wasn't that long after you were casting the Masters Tour, right? Which is a big deal. Lots of work going into that. Make sure you know all the decks people are playing, and you never know what these players are going to bring. So
yeah, and there was a patch a week before that too, so it was kind of like it was like, okay, we're prepping along with the players, just trying to get in as much as we could, including studying up on that rogue deck, that this Sonia rogue, Infinity Rogue that came around. I was like, okay, and then right after the Masters tour, then my brain just went, okay, all that I have to focus on now is this charity event. Okay. And then now that that's over, I'm like, okay, card games exist. Let's refocus on that. So I've been now trying to catch up a bit this week after resting. So yeah, my ladder is not going too well. It's been lacking, unfortunately.
Oh, well, something to get us excited about, maybe getting back into it. We did have a Miniset announcement. So away we go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
News. We got a Miniset announcement. It's called the Traveling Travel Agency. And it's going to launch on September 10th, so not too far from now. This is always the pace for Minisets, is we get the announcement, we get like go reveals, like a class a day, and then boom, it's out. So September 10th, that's going to be next week on Tuesday. Normally, I would be streaming this, but I'm going to be out of town visiting my grandmother because my in-laws are going to be out of town camping. And usually my father-in-law would be like watching my daughter on Tuesday afternoons, and then I can take that time to stream. Not going to be able to happen. So I'm going to be at my grandma's house so I can still have some assistance.
Just stream from grandma's house.
Technically I could. Maybe if I'm feeling extra motivated, I'll like bring my headset and just do like a low quality stream after I put my daughter to bed. But wouldn't count on it. But I'll bet you'll be streaming sometime around then.
I plan to, yes. It's I plan to stream this week, and then just things got out of hand and I didn't get to, but I do plan on streaming next week when this comes out. And so far from what we have, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but it's looking exciting. So I'm hoping that launch day is really fun.
Yeah, sort of inherently with this mini set, it's more exciting because every class is looking at not just their cards, but the class that they can tour into. And then, as we'll talk about later, a couple of classes, sorry, folks who are specialists, a couple of classes got new tourists. So we'll get into that more later. But in general, usual consists of 38 new cards, 4 legendary cards, 1 epic, 17 rares, and 16 commons. The cards can be found in Perils in Paradise packs or are purchasable as a set in normal version for 15 USD or 2,000 gold, and a golden version for 70 USD or 10,000 gold. Golden version also includes a bonus diamond legendary Travel Master Dungar, who is a neutral but is 9 mana, so actually a druid card. This also includes 2 new tourists, like I mentioned, but you can still only have 1 tourist in your deck. So just like they described when they introduced the tourist mechanic, where like you can't tour into a class and then use that class as tourist, even if you're still that same starting class and your starting class has 2 tourists, you have to pick one. Which kind of makes sense. You can't just be traveling to 2 destinations at the same time. I don't know. Thoughts on the tourist situation there?
Oh yeah, no, it totally makes sense, and I think it's really cool. I mean, I feel like it's a slight bummer that they weren't able to do like a new tourist for every single class, but also, that kind of makes sense because it's a mini set and they only have so many cards for the mini set that they can do. But still, I think it'll be exciting.
And it would be weird to be like, this time we're giving everyone a legendary, or we're making rare tourists, right? Like, no matter what, it'd be weird if they were to do that. And certainly, if like every class got a legendary, then suddenly the value you're getting for the mini set, if you dust all those legendaries, is like way more than usual. Sorry, people who are upset about some classes getting tourists and others not. But they're also going to include brochure cards that swap between 2 versions. And we're going to be discussing all these cards in the Decksplanations, but the brochure cards are, they work the same way as like the Worgen cards, if we're taking a real throwback to Witchwood, where they had like 2 versions and switched. Or more recently, you've got from Festival of Legends, there were a couple cards there that would change versions. I think there was a Demon Hunter one that had like 4 different versions. There was a Rogue one that had 2 versions. And so there would be a different one on different turns. These, keeping it simple, just 2 versions.
Yes.
Additionally, there's a small Battlegrounds balance patch server side out today. We've got link for those notes in the show notes. In terms of the changes, Hero Pool, they unbanned Jandis Barov in Naga lobbies, still banned in Elemental lobbies, and banned Mr. Bigglesworth in duos. Trinkets, removed several trinkets from the pool, greater dollar on cheese wheel for being too strong, and others for low pick rates, and then they adjusted many more trinkets costs. And then they fixed a few BG's specifics bugs. Arena, then they changed around card offering rates for several cards that have been adjusted them, and then some have been removed, such as lower power legendaries or core set cards. It's especially good to make sure they remove lower power legendaries now that like you get one automatically at the start of your run. So you don't really want to be looking at bad options there. And then new cosmetics. And I think we're probably going to spend a little bit of time talking about this. So there's this article, Ragnaros is heating up the tavern, in which Nathan Lyon Smith talks about a new mythic Ragnaros dual class Shaman Warrior hero skin coming in patch 30.4 for $60 USD or 6,000 runestones. It's a skin plus 3 warrior packs and 3 shaman packs. The skin is extremely emotive and pops out of frame. Definitely, check out the page to see what it looks like. And when they say dual class, I think it's like, hey, if we're gonna make something this fancy, we want it to be usable by 2 different classes.
Yeah, and it's really fancy. Like you said, go check it out. But like it's way fancy. Everything, like they included new emotes, the voice lines, like the actions and animations for everything, like the end, the end victory or defeat screen, like it all is completely updated and completely unique for the hero skin. Very much like the Leroy skin, but even more so.
Yeah. And he says that they know this is really pricey. He says premium cosmetics will let us deliver an awesome experience to players who want the ultimate flair and also help us invest more into the offerings and systems within Hearthstone. Specifically, he calls out that like, hey, those like more free things that we can give it to people, we can do that by offering, expensive things as well. Really glad that they're making it. At least you get it for 2 classes, so you feel better about spending that much. He says the team remains committed to removing barriers that would prevent players from joining us all in the tavern, including cost barriers, such as they've done with catch-up packs, improved loner decks, and recently revamped new and returning player experience, and so much more, going all the way back to changes like duplicate protection and our ladder revamps. The team does plan to continue to provide lower cost and free cosmetics and to keep mythic skins and ultra premium content special. There won't be too many. The last thing he mentioned was that they teased pets in his last post and says those are on track for next year. So they'll probably have more to share on that in early 2025. Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about this in general?
It feels like a loaded question. I've seen so many different opinions on this. Personally, I'm fine with it, and I think it's really cool. I want it, but also I'm not going to commit that money for it. I also don't have that right now, so to be able to like just spend on a cosmetic. So ultimately, it's like it's cool, and I think it's awesome for people that want it. But I'm not that target audience, so we'll see. But I mean, I think for me, as long as it's something that they're not just gonna start doing all over the place and like, oh, okay, now it's like everything is just getting more and more costly. And I mean, I'd rather put that $60 if I had it. Like, I'd rather just save that for the next expansion and buy a pre-order bundle, and get the cards instead of just one cosmetic. So obviously, this is targeted towards towards a very specific audience and towards specific people. It's not meant for everybody, but just as he mentioned things like the catch-up packs, the new and returning player experience, like those were also geared towards a specific audience, and not everybody benefited from those either. Like people who have full collections or who played, catch-up packs were like nothing, right? They're like, okay, cool, here's like your 5 cards. It's like, oh, cool, this is like a regular pack. Like there wasn't anything extra with it, or it wasn't anything that they could benefit from. So this is kind of just on the other side of things. This is like the people who kind of do have full collections or do kind of have all this stuff, really want those cosmetics, and are willing to whale out and spend that kind of money. So they're out
Yeah.
there, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah, I think folks are always going to be upset about things that they can't, quote, can't have for one reason or another, right? Like, this is very expensive. It is totally reasonable to say, this is expensive. I can't get it. I'm like on that borderline where I'm like willing to put money I get from my creative endeavors back into the sort of Hearthstone economy, and it remains kind of circular. But that's a high price point for me. Skins are not usually where I put stuff. Signatures are kind of my weakness, but uh, it's one of those things where, you know, when I would look at Magic players who had just crazy blinged out decks and everything, it's like some people really want to be able to add that flair and like have all the nice things. And I think people should have the opportunity to do that. I do want to know. I would love to see like, oh well, what's the next iteration of stuff that this is going to fund, right? In terms of like, uh, you know, either stuff for free to play players or those kinds of things, or esports. It,
Oh,
you know, I still feel like
yeah.
if they were to offer the bundles where it was like crowdfunded esports, even though I feel like they should be able to support esports in general, if esports were given to us in the form of people buying crowdfund stuff, uh, fine. But anyway,
Man. If they brought back that esports crowdfunding thing, like I don't care how much it costed, I would find a way to make it happen. That's something I would do. Yeah.
so many of us, yeah, we'll just, you know, we'll just see what next year's like. Hopefully, we'll still have a job, but yeah, in general, I'm on the same page as you. It's like I will never feel like it's a bad thing that they are offering the people who do not scoff at that price point something to spend on, but I I would like to see on the other side of things like where that's going, right? And I'm not sure they'll ever really give enough transparency on that. Um, yeah, then there's always going to be bad faith arguments of like, you know, don't focus on these cosmetics, focus on designing your game better. To which I'm just like, yo, dude, the art department and the card design department are different. Like, they're different
Yeah.
things. But final little thought on this: Magesa and WickedGood in absentia would like to reiterate their plea for an accessibility feature that reduces the opponent's hero animations or like turns them off. They won't know. It's
Yeah, like a squelch, but for animations.
exactly like it's very
Yeah.
distracting for someone who's neurodivergent. But moving on from cosmetics, also coming in patch 30.4, there will be a free event that gives a card back, a cosmetic coin, and 2 different hero skins, as well as all wild boards are going to be in rotation for standard. So again, this is to make up for the fact that they are only doing like 1 board a year now, which I know some people were bummed about. And, you know, I was talking about proof of stuff they're going to get people. Card back, cosmetic coin, 2 different hero skins. I mean, that's cool. Then coming later on, there will be a favorite boards feature. So just like you can do with, you know, your card backs and coins, you can now say, hey, I want these to be the boards that show up. There's going to be a major arena update for early next year. And then for standard, they say they've got some fun updates building up to the expansion, including something we've never done before. So that's curious. And I already mentioned pets early in 2012. Something they've never done before. So I mean, it would be too soon for another class, but that's also something they've done before. What could this be?
I don't know. I'm so curious because there's been like so many different things that they've done that they had never done before, like different actual like game modes, right? Like they had never done something like Twist before. They had never done something like Battlegrounds before Battlegrounds came out, right? Like, and some of the things have been successful and some of them have maybe not been as successful. So I I'm just happy that they still continue to try new things because you
Absolutely.
never know what people will enjoy. So like I'm just excited at the prospect of seeing what it is. And usually whatever they announce initially seems pretty exciting.
Hmm.
So, in practice, maybe it won't be as engaging or as exciting, but at least in the like announcing it and initially looking at it, I think it's going to be something exciting. I have no idea what this could be, but like I could throw spaghetti at a wall and probably take multiple guesses, but uh, at the range of things that they have tried over the years, and then saying, okay, well, it's none of those. If it's something they've never done before, it's in between all the things they've done. Sure, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm that creative. I'm a creative person. I don't know if I'm that creative.
Yeah, I mean, what's really throwing me off is the for standard intro to that sentence, right? So it's like it's something they've never done before within the standard format, right? So it's not like a new mode or
Right.
new whatever, something in standard. And I'm just like, oh, that could be anything. Like it both limits options kind of and because it's sort of a less flexible space, but also it just limits what I can like. I just can't think then of what they would be referring to, because like what do you do with standard building up to the expansion? Like the only thing they've ever done is give us a card early. So I don't know if the something we've never done before is like multiple cards or you pick a card. I guess they've done the pick a card before, sort of when it was
Yeah. When they kind of did like the Horde versus Alliance thing.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's something like they let you ban a class that you don't face. But I just like that's something
No,
people have
I
wanted
doubt
for a
it.
long time, but I just don't think that's something that they'll ever actually do.
No. Yeah. Well, we can only speculate on that.
Yes. Speculate poorly.
Right. Besides that, there was also an interview with game director Tyler Bielman on thegamer.com. Hearthstone's new director wants to be fearless, not careless. Um, you can check out a link to the article in our show notes, but Magesa wrote a little summary or highlight points here. Bielman isn't taking a more visible role because giving opportunities to developers that are earlier on in their career is more important to him than taking the spotlight for himself. Sure. um, Bielman describes the relationship between the community managers, the content creators, and the high end players as tightly knit. I think I would agree with that. And a constant source of input and direction for the game. A lot of the current design team is made up of those streamers and high end players who are very in touch with the player point of view. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty accurate from my experience, at least in Creator Discord.
Yeah, and just seeing over the years like who has joined the development team, players like Boar Control and Cora
Mm-hmm.
and Gia, like, and there's even more than that. And even some players who may be lesser known or streamers or high level players who aren't like big maybe household names, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote household names, but they have joined the development team. And so yeah, I definitely think that a lot of the design team, from what we even know, probably is made up of those types of players, and they know from their experience playing, and I'm sure that they know a lot of the other high level players, a lot of the community, and they probably spend even a lot of their off time watching Hearthstone streams and listening to the community and stuff too.
Yeah, I think it's been really nice. It's felt good to like give feedback on stuff. Um, and it's never been like they will definitely listen to what people suggest, and sometimes they come up with things that no one thought of or suggested, but it is nice to sort of feel like we have a voice in that space, and they're definitely listening. And I think it's testament to like, look, no one knows exactly what's going to come out of, either changes to cards or releasing new cards a certain way. Like, design is hard, and you can only do so much playtesting behind the scenes. Things only get found when they're released to the like thousands, millions of players. That stuff just gets checked out and proliferated so quickly. But moving on, he says the Hearthstone team's current focus is on A, picking and choosing focus in order to over-deliver in the areas that are most important, and B, using experiments like Twist to test out new ideas without the risk of a full new game mode. He says abandoned game modes like duels are necessary to avoid spreading the team too thin. He cites Battleground Duos as a very successful new feature for an existing mode, saying that's an example of a focused effort that we can only do with a lot of the team centered on that idea and not other areas. But the team also needs to continue experimenting to find the next big thing. Twist is an event-based mode where the devs can try stuff without committing to an entire new game mode that may or may not be successful. I don't want to add another thing into your day-to-day play, Bielman says. If we ask you to come look at this thing, it's because we think it's cool and probably secretly we're looking to learn something. I find that curious because that's kind of what Tavern Brawl used to be. In terms of like a testing ground, not all the time, but it's curious that rather than like coming up with new and interesting tavern brawls to test things, they've made Twist their new sort of testing space. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think they serve some different purposes. I think they can probably still test in both. But as you were just talking about, like with, multiple players and the larger player base testing things, I would say you probably get more players and more data in Twist, at least over like the course of the month rather than just the short term. Because, Tavern Brawl, there's a lot of people who either won't play it or they'll just play it for their one game or whatever till they get their pack and then that's it. And so if they're trying to test a certain thing in terms of like how a certain format might work or how certain cards might work together, then I feel like they can probably get more data and more information from trying that out in Twist than they can in Tavern Brawl. But who's to say they can't try things out in both? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear them basically refer to Twist as their PTR, right? Their public test realm. I feel like the population isn't necessarily greater, but different, right? That like, because it still is attached to a ranked ladder, you're going to get people who want to make that number change and look good, right? Whereas Tavern Brawl is, as you say, it's kind of the reverse. Like, more competitive people will be like, I don't need a pack and this is wacky. So unless it's like really fun and different and they've heard from other people, not going to bother with it. I don't need a pack, whatever. Some people are going to feel obligated to do it and do that one and done because they want the free pack. And then some people like the really wacky stuff and so go to it for that. But I would guess that I suppose both of them, but Twist is around for longer, have that like surge when they first like come out, and then it sort of tapers off.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like an interesting like way to test different stuff too, because as you said, kind of in that last quote that you read, like don't want to add to like day-to-day stuff, but if it's like, hey, come look at this thing. And I think they even do that in Arena, like right before an expansion when they add the new cards to Arena, right? It's kind of like hey, like come play the new cards in Arena, like come check it out. And they've been putting a lot more emphasis into like doing updates and doing different things for Arena, like dual class things. They've done, you can only get one legendary. They've done a lot of changes even to like Arena that kind of also help support that and the players who play Arena in a day-to-day thing. So I think it's definitely like each has its its emphasis and its focus and its particular player base, but it's just like a way to test some different stuff. But I don't know. If they can get enough interest, then they can get a lot of data in the first at least couple days of a twist season.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely check out that article if you're interested. You know, as he mentioned, we have had more limited communication from the game director. I'm not sure I buy or if it matters his reason for not taking a more visible role for like giving opportunities to other people in their career. I feel like it's just he's not that type of person, so he came up with a reason, right? Like I don't know, not everyone has to be, right? I feel like Brode was kind of singular in his being a
Yeah.
outspoken, chat with everyone kind of game director.
I mean, it could be some of both too. Like he could be like, "Hey, I want people, who are newer in their careers, like Cora, to have more of that
Sure.
spotlight, and be out there and like use her, you know, the things that like she's done in her life and like use her specialties and like her, trying to think of like the best word for this, but like use her strengths to get out there more." But he also might not be as somebody who likes being in the spotlight either, and that's totally fine. But yeah, like
it is also, I mean, I don't know whether this has anything to do with it or not, but it does also shield him from being the initial or direct target of, the awful things that people say on the internet.
True. Yeah.
And kind of insulates him a bit. But anyway, yeah, interesting interview. And it was surprising for me to hear them almost explicitly say that Twist is their public test realm. But that is going to do it for news. We're not going to talk about the Listener League stuff this week because there's plenty of other stuff going on. We're just going to go right into Decksplanations to talk about the new cards and hopefully keep this under 2 hours. Dawn tuned me into this, which I foolishly did not know how to make this work, that you can sort the cards in the card library by most recent and then turn off class sorting. Before I always was like, oh god, I've got to find what are the new cards amongst the other cards from the set. Mini sets were terrible for me.
Yeah. Yep. And then you just kind of trace backwards to wherever the first card reveal was. And then, then there it is. There's all the cards.
So that means we're going to be starting with actually a half card because we haven't seen the other half of this. I guess they're not all brochures, these half cards, but a rogue card. At least I think there's another half of this. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong? Is this not a half card?
Which one?
Sharp Shipment. Give your weapon +2/+2. Or 4-cost spell for rogue.
No, I don't think that's a brochure. I think that's just a...
So it's only the brochures that are... Yeah, okay, just a card. I don't know why I think it's because the Ungoro brochure cost 4 and like gives things +2/+2, and I was just like, we're missing another. It's kind of boring, right? I don't think it's necessarily bad. +2/+2 on a weapon is a lot, but I don't know, not an exciting card. But,
no, not very. I saw somebody on Twitter suggest that like this could be kind of busted potentially with maybe Sonya, but really more so the pirate that gets you to discount by 3 and making it 1. Then you can use it with Sonya. But like that's also a lot of stuff you're trying to do just to give your weapon some stats. And like, how many times can you really do it? Like,
well, it's much simpler to just have Valera's gift with Sonya, and you go gift and the free gift, and then each of those is going to let you play a deadly poison twice. So with enough mana, it's +8 attack, which is usually the part that matters. So I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like maybe you run one or two, like just because adding the health on the weapon matters. I kind of think if you're running the burgle weapon, right, the one that gets durability when you play cards from other classes, I think you don't care about this. But if you're running a weapon that doesn't automatically gain more durability, then it's more interesting because it lets you, keep more charges of your big weapon.
Sure. This is not a very exciting card to me. I don't know. And Rogue feels weird.
How about a throwback, 4 mana, agency espionage? For those who remember academic espionage back in Scholomance. Shuffle a card from each other class, which is 10, because there's 11 classes. Academic espionage shuffled 10 cards from one class, or from your opponent's class, I think. This shuffles 10 cards, one from each class, into your deck. They cost 1.
Sure.
These are not my favorite kinds of cards.
No. Rogue feels weird right now, and I don't know how I feel about these cards in particular with the stuff we have for Rogue at the moment. Like,
yeah,
it's almost like they're trying. Didn't y'all do an episode on this? Trying to make fetch happen. This is just making fetch happen. Okay, this is what's happening. They just really want like this Rogue to be a thing, and I just like I don't know.
And what strikes me is like there are other better ways of getting cards from other classes besides diluting your deck to heck. Like this kind of thing has always been a like crazy fun sort of maybe you get a YouTube video out of it kind of card, but like not competitive. I do think that the 1 mana changes to Eudora and Maestra were significant in making them playable, but we have better things for playing stuff from other classes. So even though this like kind of fits with the theme of the other stuff in the set, I think if I were to put money on a card being played, it would be more on the boring card, Sharp Shipment. And even that, 4 mana is a lot. So our last rogue card here, Robocaller, is a 3 mana 3/2 mech. And this one's weird as well, but in a new and different way. Battle Cry, draw on the card, it says an 8/8 and 8 cost card. Numbers dialed randomly each turn. So it might be draw 3 cards. That's pretty good, right?
Sure. It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't know. From what I've heard, it always starts at the 8/8/8, and then
which you kind of never want as rogue.
Yeah, I guess unless you have giants or something that cost 8 in the first place. But it's like, okay, I don't know. So much has to line up.
It never has 10, right? I assume its max is 9.
I would think so. Yeah.
If we're keeping with the theme of a phone, yeah. Because I was gonna say, oh well, maybe in a Reno deck, if you ever hit 10, that draws your Reno. But if you can't hit 10, it's just I feel like it's very weird for Rogue in particular because most Rogue decks don't have anything that costs more than 5. So I suppose you do have some things that reduce their costs, right? Snatch and Grab is an 8 cost card that gets reduced for cards you've played from other classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it could draw those on 8, and that might be good. But largely, I feel like you're just hoping you get numbers 5 and below.
Yeah, I mean, you could. The way I feel about this card is it could be anything. It could even be 8. It could be 0. Like, it could be anything. Could be in the box. It could even be a boat. I don't know. This card's weird. Like it's it seems cool and fun,
Draw,
but
draw X number of cards sometimes.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe it works if you're putting like random cards in your deck from other classes, like with the card we just saw, but
But they
okay.
all cost 1, right? Or maybe they still...
No, they cost yeah, they cost 1. So
I guess it depends whether they're read as like still whatever their original
as
cost
their
is, but
yeah,
then cost 1 for you to play. I don't know.
I don't know. It's the artwork is amazing. I love the art on this card.
Oh yeah,
But the
very
card
good.
itself, like the text of the card, I'm like, okay. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so far, Wicked is very pleased because the rogue cards don't seem great. So,
Yay.
but they're also mage cards now, which just got really weird. Because mage is one of the classes to get a new tourist. It is a 5-mana 4/5 called Portalmancer Skyla. Rogue Tourist, Battlecry, swap the costs of the lowest and highest cost spells in your hand. So, Rogue and Mage. It's a pairing we've had before back in Scholomance, actually. Anything exciting you want to do with this?
Maybe in Mage, not in Rogue.
I mean, that's how it works, right? So, like, in terms of the other Rogue cards, you got access to the coin generators.
Yeah, sure.
So you can get coins and swap them with your big spells.
You could. I don't know. I feel like that's even too much. Like, I just want to take literally. I just want to put this in my Mage deck, and I just want to play like some of my cheap spells in Mage, and play some of my expensive spells, and just swap those costs. Make my expensive stuff cost like 1 or 2, maybe 3. Because I think we've had effects like that before that honestly were still pretty good, right? So I feel like it's a little too much even to be like, okay, I'm going to play the rogue stuff and try to go for like coins. It's like, nah, just bypass all that. Just just go, instead of going for 0, go for just like 1, 2, or 3 cost stuff and play it out. Seems fine.
I mean, one advantage to going the coin route is if you don't draw Portalmancer Skyla, you can still just play the coins to
True.
get your big spells down earlier.
Yeah. True.
I feel like it's pretty easy with the buff now to play the coin weapon, the metal detector. Manager, I'm less sure about. But I could see a world where you play the metal detector, you get a couple coins, and then you play Portalmancer Skyla, and you're like, cool, have a tsunami and a sunset volley.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because like they were already pushing Big Spell Mage a little more, and now getting this, you'll have both King Tide and Portalmancer Skyla to just like cheese out your big spells quickly.
Yes.
I guess to like stick with that vein, we'll talk about Huddle Up next. 7-mana card. Fill your board with random Naga. Now, there aren't actually that many Naga in Standard right now, but I don't feel like they're large in size, most of them.
No, not very. I can't even think of what the largest one is. A 2/6? Maybe.
I mean, you've got 4/4 from Razzle Dazzler.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a Naga. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's see. I mean, a lot of them are small, right? Like Demon Hunter has a bunch of Naga. They're all cheap because of Blind Eye Sharpshooter. So we've got like 1 3 3 2 1 1 2 2 2 4 3 3. Like the good hits are Mantle Shaper is a 5/5. Caress Cabaret Star is a 5/5. Razzle Dazzler is a 4/4. Snake Oil Seller is a 4/5, and Merch Seller is a 3/5. I don't know. This card does not look great. Like it's a board in a box, but I feel like not necessarily a terribly threatening board.
But you could play it potentially on turn 5 or 6 for cheaper if you coin out Portal Answer.
That is true. That is technically correct.
Like, I'm gonna point out that trying to go for coins is like too roundabout, but I'm gonna point out the play of going for coining out Portalmancer so that you can swap this specifically for a cheaper cost so you can play this on turn 5. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my best hope for this card right now.
I'm not sure. It doesn't have any spell school either. I feel like this is one of those things where sometimes you discover it and you play it just for stuff. But the other thought that came to my mind with this card was like, if you're doing a big spell deck and you want to run Celestial Projection Orb, this makes it so bad because it means you don't have board space when you play Sunset Volley to summon a 10-drop, and you don't have board space when you play Tsunami to summon 4 water elementals to hit them in the face. So you kind of can't run this if you are planning on running a Celestial Projection Orb, which maybe not all big spell mages are going to run that card, but it does seem to me like a sort of weird non-synergy. So in completely the other direction for Mage, they got a draw spell here, 3-cost fire spell, Burnout. Draw 3 cards and light them on fire. In 3 turns, any still in hand are destroyed. And this, I don't know, this feels very inspired by like red draw spells in Magic Gathering.
Pretty much, yeah. It such an interesting card again, but I don't know. This is really, you have to build your deck in a really specific way, I feel like. And I don't know if this is going to fit into very many Mage decks. Like, I feel like you're just putting this in very specific Mage deck. It's not going into every deck.
Yeah, definitely you need a much like lower curve situation. I wonder, like, my first thought is Spell Mage, because like you can make that to be sort of, lower curve stuff. I mean, if you're playing this on 3, then you really only have 2 turns to play the cards, right? Because it starts with, this turn, I think. And then you have 2 more. But with Sorcerer's Apprentice being not in standard and also not reducing things to 0 anymore, like, they're just, Mage doesn't actually have a lot of ways to just like play a bunch of cheap stuff right now. So I'm a little uncertain of where this is supposed to go right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with things like the Seabreeze Chalice, I mean, obviously that's a low cost thing, but cards that once you play out like the first, iteration, the first copy of it, then that, like, it's not on fire anymore when you get the other drinks back. So that's effective, but okay.
Yeah, I wonder if the intent is for people to have a like very cheap spells deck for the tourist into Paladin, right? The Rayla, where you like play a bunch of spells and summon all these things with Divine Shield.
That could be. Rayla is cool. Needed a buff. Still not very popular. She's a cool card.
I mean, I almost feel like Rayla isn't the problem. It's the rest of the deck, right? Because if you don't have Rayla on curve, what do you do? And what's so funny to me with this rogue tourist is because of the like, well, you can't run both of them. You can't solve the problem by running Metal Detector to get coins for your Rayla turn because you can't run Rayla. So,
yep. We talked about being excited by cards, and so far we're not very excited by these cards we've talked about.
I mean, I'm excited about Portalmancer Skyla. I do think it'll make the big spell mage just have like having 2 legendaries that let you cheat out a potentially 10-cost spell on turn 5 means like, oh man, we can do some pretty crazy stuff. Still probably gonna lose to Druid, but yeah, it makes me more excited to like try those things. But yeah, kind of everything else so far feels pretty like I'm not sure where the place is for this. But I know you are a hunter enjoyer, so why don't you introduce us to these hunter cards we've got next?
Sure. So next up we have Workhorse. This is a 3-mana 4/2 beast with Death Rattle. Summon 2 2/1 ponies. They are work ponies. I love it. It's a horse in a suit. What else could you ask for? He's got a tie. He's got glasses. It's amazing. I think this card is really cool, actually. Just because it's a death rattle, you have a little bit more kind of a sticky board, and the stats are aggressive, right? Like a little bit more aggressively statted as a 4/2. There's beast synergy for both the workhorse and the work pony as a beast as well. So I don't know. It's not like a super flashy, like, oh, this card's so fun, but like it just seems like a solid, good card to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I do think you'll have a tough time potentially with like Death Knight, who is just gonna have, because these are so aggressively statted, right? They can use their 2-drop to rush into this and kill it, and then have a 1/1 reborn to clear up the tokens. Like that trade-off does not go favorably for the hunter. But for anything that doesn't have access to those kinds of that kind of stuff, like those aggressive stats are gonna hurt.
Yes. I feel like Hunter kind of is suffering right now from Death Knight anyways. But yeah. I don't know. I like it. I think it's a cool card. You ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right, the next one, Cash Cow. I love it. I love it. It's a cow piggy bank. It's a cow bank. And the fun text is show me the Mooney. I love it. It's so good.
Oh God.
Oh yes. So Cash Cow is a 5-mana 3/7 beast with taunt. And whenever this takes damage, get a coin. Okay. I am curious why Hunter is gonna need coins.
I mean, they've got big beasts, right?
Sure.
It is weird.
But yeah, it's a little different than like most of Hunter and what we have right now. So I don't hate it. I love the theme of it. It's literally got coins flying out of it too. It's amazing. The card itself, I don't know. If you can like buff this up, sure. And
Yeah.
it's even, then cool. But
It is an excellent recipient of the muscle drink, right? The tourist over into warrior, which each of those hits gives +2/+1, right?
yeah.
Like, it seems like just really good value with the hand buff stuff that Hunter has access to.
Yeah, like Buzzard.
But it is a little weird them having coins. I'm just like,
Yes. I'm curious what's coming. Like, is there something coming that's gonna pair with this in the future? I don't know.
yeah. So we've got like one more Hunter card, I believe. That isn't. Is that right?
I don't think so.
Because every class usually gets 3. Right?
Yeah. Those are the only ones I see.
So my guess is they're getting a legendary, and that's why we haven't seen it yet. But purely
Is that gonna
speculation.
be the other tourist card?
Well, there's only 2, right?
Oh, we already saw them. Yeah.
So, yeah, not a tourist, but
Nope.
could be a legendary. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this card because, as you say, it's like it is unusual for Hunter to have this kind of effect. And since it is just like a big taunt, and so more defensive and not offensive, which is not usually Hunter's lane. I'm curious, like, does it make it into the big beast decks, or is like not quite good enough? Is it useful just to kind of grease the wheels, let you play more stuff? Because one problem you can sometimes have with big beasts is like if you don't get your stuff to make them cheaper, then you're just playing one a turn.
Yeah. Yeah, that could kind of be like a fill in, and I don't know, even just being able to play something out on curve that kind of help keep you in the game. If you're playing things
Mhm.
like your eggs and big beasts, then sure.
Here we go. You're on Cash Cow, and you just have a cheeky little pyromancer in the deck. So you play a
Perfect.
pyro, or not pyrotechnician, not wild pyromancer, pyrotechnician, right? So you just play these
Okay.
coins and get these random fire spells and hope they deal face damage.
Yes. Perfect.
Oh,
Okay. How about this totem for shaman?
this totem. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I think we can. Let's do like all the shaman ones together. They got revealed at different times, but yeah. First, so this hydration totem. Tell me about it.
Yes. Hydration totem is a 2 mana 0/3 totem. At the end of your turn, give adjacent minions +1/+1. I love it. I want to play this card.
Yeah,
I know. I probably shouldn't.
I'm of two minds. I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, we've got go wide synergy in shaman. We don't really have totem synergy, and I feel like going back to the days of like zero attack totems, I just like I'm sort of at a loss of where the support is for this.
Okay. Hear me out. Hear me out. Here we go. The support is AFK. I love
I will,
AFK. And this is
I will
like a mini
summon all these
AFK.
charge things that won't attack so they can get +2/+2 and then get cleared by an AoE.
Oh, I know. Like this, I love this card. And it's very much like AFK. Like, I love it, but I don't think it's gonna actually like see competitive play. At least not right now.
I mean, it costs 2, so it is better.
Does. Well, yeah.
Um, AFK is hilarious. It's almost like she only exists to get summoned by Razzle Dazzler as a high roll.
Oh. Hey, I did get to pull her off in theory crafting like 1 or 2
It's true.
games. So,
Yeah.
we all know how much theory crafting resembles the real metas.
I mean, I think if there's ever a weapon like it maybe have to be more than a Vine Cleaver, but like a weapon that you swing and it summons stuff, just something where you could set up the turn before to summon a bunch of minions. But unlike the Sigil of Skydiving where they have charge, right? If they can't attack, um, then it's like, great, you summon your stuff with your attack, and then you've got AFK to buff it up. Amazing. But right now, there just aren't really those kinds of effects. Uh, Hydration Totem is fine. It just like can't defend itself. And if this were Paladin, where you could put a 1/1 taunt divine shield to get that buff and protect it, then great. But Shaman has a little more trouble with that.
Yeah. I kind of almost want to play this in like an elemental shaman just to give my elementals like I know.
But it's a totem.
It is a totem, but elementals plus stats is good.
It does
Oh,
maybe look as though it should have both types.
kind
Gives
of
gives
does
off those
because
vibes.
it's a water cooler, but it's a totem and it's holding paper cups and it's amazing.
And this got a face.
It does.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, maybe there will be totem stuff down the line, but yeah. So how about Ice Crown Brochure?
Yeah, so Ice Crown Brochure. This one is one that kind of got I think this one got like early revealed on
Oh,
accident from the
oops.
social team, but it's on the website, so we're gonna talk about it because they put it up. So Ice Crown Brochure, it's one of those brochures, so it's got the 2 sides. It's gonna flip each turn. It's 2 mana and it's frost for this side. Deal 3 damage to a minion and freeze its neighbors. And then it flips into Blackrock Brochure, which is still 2 mana, but it's a fire spell, and deal 3 damage to a minion and 1 to its neighbors. So both sides of the brochure affect a minion and its neighbors, but one of them deals extra damage, one of them freezes. Cool.
Yeah, I definitely think the like flipping between just 2 options makes it a little more realistic to like find what you're looking for compared to like the Demon Hunter one from
Yeah.
festivals that had like 4 options.
Yeah.
I believe there was a card called Avalanche. Oh yeah. Was this was Knights of the Frozen Throne. Does the same thing as the brochure. How much mana does it cost? Do you remember?
Avalanche? Wasn't it like 4 or 5?
4 mana. Freeze
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It is slightly different. You freeze a minion and deal 3 damage to adjacent ones instead of deal 3 damage to a minion and freeze adjacent ones, which is arguably better. I guess Avalanche could kill 2 things, but it was a bad card. Freeze Shaman did not work out.
Yeah.
But Ice Crown Brochure looks like it will work out. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. And also Shaman with the spell schools and stuff too seems like you are probably fine. I mean, depending on the, matchup and kind of what you're up against on the board and situationally, but being able to play it as a frost or a fire spell is really cool.
Yeah, I guess the only kind of thing that makes me feel less good about it is like if we insert it into the context of the spell school stuff that Shaman and Death Knight are getting from this, it doesn't help any of that because you already had I forget what it's called, but it summons the 2/4 taunts that give you armor when they die. So you had that as a frost spell. And for fire, you have the drink, the magma drink. So, and I don't think this will replace those in a like, Razzle Dazzler kind of deck, and
No.
that just feels like kind of a bummer. I don't know.
Yeah. It still is deal 3 damage for 2 mana, which is still
True,
fine.
not face though.
Yeah, not face. Which does make it slightly worse. I like when my cards go face.
Yeah. Yeah, it just feels like they missed an opportunity to, insert another spell school in there or something. Maybe that's intentional, but it means that probably this isn't making its way into the Razzle Dazzler decks. Although, I suppose one argument is you can go, oh, I need fire, not frost, so I'll wait a turn and play its fire side.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, right? I already have fire, so I'll wait a turn and play its frost side. We'll see. But most exciting, can you tell us about the legendary that Shaman has?
Yes. Turbulus. This is a 4 mana, 3/4 elemental hunter tourist. Battle Cry. Give +1/+1 to all other Battle Cry minions in your hand, deck, and battlefield. This has to be one of my favorite cards of the set so far.
I also really like this effect.
I love it.
I was a big fan of Snapdragon, even though it like never really found a home.
Yeah.
I liked the Keliseth decks back in the day. So yeah, big fan of these. It's always tough when it's a legendary, right? And obviously coming out on 4 instead of 2 is different, but it buffs the things in play and in your hand as well, right? Keliseth, part of why it needed to be 2 is because it did not buff your hand and other things. So you wanted to have as much stuff in your deck as possible when you played it to be buffed. But yeah, this is sweet. I don't know, like, I guess it just goes in an elemental deck, right?
I mean, you could for sure. Yeah. I mean, you could play it in an elemental deck, but I think also there is there's been some shaman decks that have been going around that do play like the location to draw some battle cry stuff. There's like some
Mhm.
it's not Shutter Walk.
Shutter
What is it?
block.
Shutter Block. That's what it is. I was like thinking Legos, and I'm like, why can't I think of the name? Yeah, Shutter Block decks. So, there are some like Battle Cry Shaman decks that are going around too that could utilize this, but I don't
Mhm.
know how much you're looking to give +1/+1 like in those cases.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a Highlander shaman or some kinds of Highlander shamans might play this. Um, Definitely. I do wonder if this, even ignoring the hunter cards, is enough to make a. Because it's a hunter tourist, and we barely talked about that. But um, uh, just like to bring back an elemental deck because you make your stuff bigger. There's another legendary we'll talk about later that also might make the elemental decks more viable.
I've got it. You play this and Hydration Station in elementals, and then see this gives your Hydration Station.
No, hydration totem. Hydration station is a druid card,
Oh wait, yes, no, not Hydration Station. The Hydration Totem. Yes.
but it's not a battle cry.
No, it's not. Oh, it's fine. You give your other minions +1/+1. Oh, it's like they
Yeah.
thought about that. Look, they didn't want to make the totem too strong. That's what it is. I really just want to play the totem.
Yeah, I feel like between this and the other legendary element we're getting, I think that elementals might come back. +1/+1 often seems unsuspecting, but when it's everything, that's a lot. And between having access to Lamplighter for face damage and just all the other options, I feel like Shaman elementals might be able to come back. And getting Hunter Tourist means you get access to, um, generally beasts, which doesn't work for the elemental stuff, but it also means you get like a couple of spells that can potentially deal face damage. I don't know if that's necessarily what you want, but Trusty Fishing Rod pulls one cost out of your deck. Parrot Sanctuary can make your battle cries cheaper. I almost feel like the battle cry is for Elemental Shaman and the Hunter Tourist is for Highlander Shaman. I don't know if that
Could be.
makes sense, but like, Hagatha can pull Furious Fowls or Death Roll, right? Because those are big enough spells for her to pull. And Shaman might benefit from those. I guess you could, in an elemental deck, just run bird watching. Right? Even if that's the only thing that you take. It's not bad.
Even Catch of the Day is also a battle cry minion. Technically.
It is. That's true. Not an elemental, but it is good stats for the cost. And with the battle cry, it would be a 4/4. So,
and it has rush. So paired with some of the elementals that have rush, that could be lots of immediate board presence.
Hilariously enough, Sasquatch is actually not something you would want to pick because even though it's a battle cry and would get the +1/+1, when you repeat each card you played last turn, all those battle cry cards you played last turn will not do their battle cries. So that doesn't quite work out. But I don't know. I'm not sure if like how much the Hunter Tourist is going to impact there, but it might. It means you can get Cash Cow if in Shaman you want those coins.
Sure. It's just all the classes. Let's just give every class coins. Let's go.
Everyone can generate coins for themselves now, apparently.
That's right. Oh.
That concludes Shaman, which takes us into Warrior here. We have Alloy Advisor, a 4-mana 2/6 mech with Taunt. Whenever this takes damage, gain 3 armor. Something about taunts that take damage and give you stuff in this little mini set here. It seems fine. I don't know the deck for this, but it seems okay. Feels like one of those things that's just going to end up being an arena card because it doesn't really have a place. Like it's fair good. It's not like I want to do something crazy with this good.
Yes, which makes it fit perfectly into the Death Rattle Mech warrior deck. Hey, look, listen. The wrench, the wrench just got buffed.
True.
All right, it's only 3 now. You play Alloy Advisor to kind of help keep you in it until you can play out your training dummy, and then, or is it testing dummy? Testing dummy.
Yeah.
And then, okay, then you're good at that point.
Bomb Warrior's back. Definitely.
That's right. Look, I wanted that deck to work so bad.
Me too. I tried so hard, and it just did not work. Some people over in Discord have had some success with like the testing dummy instead. The 6/8, right? 4/8 taunt instead of the big 8/8 rush. Shuffle bombs in.
Yes, yeah, testing dummy. Yeah,
but I don't know. I wanted the bombs to work, and it just doesn't work. Because any of the go late things just kill you before they die to bombs, or they gain 1,000,000 armor. It just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, another card that this one is honestly a little weird. Might be. I don't know what the place for this is, but 3 cost reserved spot. Give a random minion in your hand +4/+4, quite a bit. If it's the only one there, reduce its cost by 2. So that's like you don't run that many minions, but the ones you do run, you really want to get buffed. You can give it +4/+4. I don't know if there's some kind of Grom deck here, right? You run a bunch of control stuff and try and OTK them with Gromash. You buff it up, and then Chemical Spell to like cheat it out, and
yeah, or even like just Leroy. Yes.
Yeah, then you don't have to cheat it out. You just play it. Yep.
Yeah. Sure. I don't know. Even just 3 for +4/+4 seems okay, but also,
yeah, I guess you could ignore the reduce the cost by 2.
Yeah, but do I want to spend 3 of my mana just buffing something and not doing anything else?
Yeah.
Don't know.
And the current, like, we don't have Faceless Manipulator anymore. It's just Cover Artist. So you can't buff something in its full stats unless you use the location, in which case it's dormant for a turn.
2-turn lethal. It's okay.
It's the 2 TK.
2 TK. Yeah, exactly. Okay, what about the last one? How do you feel about the last warrior card?
Okay, so again, a 3 cost spell. No spell school. I'm so not used to seeing spells without spell schools, and there's like suddenly a bunch of them. Punch card. Give your hero +3 attack, and also damages adjacent minions this turn. This just seems solid. Like, if you are some kind of controlling warrior, Highlander warrior, whatever, like, just being able to kill 3 minions on turn 3 is really good. It's depending on how they position, right? You might be able to take minimal damage to clear 3 things. That feels really solid. And in a pinch, if you're like, oh, I need a little more damage for a lethal, I gain 3 attack and hit you in the face. That seems like the best of the warrior ones we got revealed. But I guess it's a mini set, so there's just 3 cards. Seems like the best of the warrior cards.
You could also use this in the Death Rattle Mech Warrior deck.
It's true.
Just clear the board, trigger your Boom Wrench, and then the death rattle goes to their face because you cleared their board.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in general with any weapon, right? So this sort of scales to the late game in terms of its control capability, because then that's like 6 damage to 3 things. So yeah, really solid.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, then we've got a smattering of other things. I hate Druid, so why don't you read this one?
Which one? The brochure?
Yeah.
So we have the Ungoro brochure. This is 4 cost. It's nature. And you draw 2 minions. Give them +2/+2. And it flips into the Dalaran brochure, which is also 4 mana, but it's arcane. And you draw 2 spells, and they cost 1 less.
Yay.
Seems like okay for the like what you get, but also 4 mana seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's look, cost-wise, I want to say this is bad and just be gleeful about it. But when I consider the fact that druids are going to 13 and 16 mana these days and then can kind of do whatever they want, they already don't really seem to gas out like they used to. Like Wicked has mentioned this in previous episode that sometimes it used to be they would get to their high mana and be like, oh, I don't have any cards and now I'm top decking. But now they have Marin or they have Thrice, Sleep Under the Stars. Yeah, I'm never going to say that.
Yeah.
Thrice. And so it seems like they don't run out of cards. Well, now, even if they, change Marin and or Sleep Under the Stars, they also have this to fall back on. It is also targeted draw, which always means there's a risk of if something comes out that's like extra special to get +2/+2 on, or extra special to get reduced in terms of the spell side, then you could kind of targeted draw there. I don't know. I hope it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because, as you mentioned, like Druid just has so much stuff that like I almost feel like this is fair compared to a lot of the other stuff that Druid already has and does. So like, do they really need this?
Yeah, I mean it is another thing where they can go Dorian and then draw specifically minions.
True. Yeah. Buff their Yogg and
yeah, if it were 3 mana, I'd be much more scared. At 4, I feel like I can at least have hope that they won't play it.
Yeah, I think on Doctor 3 we decided this should cost 3.5 mana. That would be perfect. Like 3, it seems like too good. At 4, it seems a little bad, but just like 3.5 seems perfect.
Yeah,
that's what we need.
Well, we've just got a few left here. We can quickly go over this next one. Employee of the Month. Yes, that is imp, not emp. 2 cost, 3/2 demon. Battlecry, give a friendly minion lifesteal. Note, it does not say a friendly demon. It says a friendly minion. Very important. This feels like one of those where like I don't know off the cuff what it's gonna have a crazy good interaction with, but it seems like it might.
Oh, give me this in Pain Lock. Let me give my giant lifesteal and heal back up after I've done damage to myself. Like this, yeah. This seems flexible and just at 2 mana, like you can just give something lifesteal. Like you said, it's just a friendly minion. It doesn't have to be a demon. It could just be one of your minions. Yes, please. I love this card.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of like, oh, if you run this with something that gets multiple attacks, or I mean, probably aren't doing Wild Pyromancer in Warlock. I feel like I'm probably thinking of 2 like cute old school synergies, but I feel like something's got to come up. I don't know. So now we get into the last couple legendaries. These are neutral legendaries. I mentioned there was an elemental that was legendary that might also go into an elemental shaman. Why don't you read this one off for us?
All right. We have Dream Planner Zephyrus, 3 mana, 3/2 elemental. Battlecry, choose a travel tour to get 2 potentially perfect cards from it. So it does give you 3 options initially, and you have the choices. Let me pull up the notes again to get this correct here. So you have uh, three choices, and you pick one of those choices, and then it gives you 2 random cards out of a bucket of static cards, like from the choice that you had. So it doesn't take into account the game state. It's not looking at the hand. It's not like considering what would be good for you. It's just you pick something that's either going to be high mana, something that can impact your opponent's board, or from a pool of cards that can potentially deal damage to your opponent's face. Like those are the 3 options.
Yeah. It's like
And it's like maybe.
value, control, face. Those are
Yes. Maybe.
those are your options.
But potentially, I think they all say like that can potentially give you cards. So like it's not even guaranteed. On the Hearthstone website in the card library, if you pull up the Dream Planner Zephyrus, it does list a bunch of the related cards, like Mind Control in the example video that came out in the blog post. You can also see that they choose the high cost cards, expensive stuff. And Mind Control is one of the cards that it gives you, and then it also gives you, or in the video, it gives Mind Control and Archmage Antonidas, which are 7 and 9 cost. So,
of note, it lists some of the Ysera cards in here. I think that's just because Ysera is one of the big mana options, right? So if you're going for value, you can get an Ysera, and then Ysera will give you the dream cards. I don't think Zephyrus will directly give you dream cards. But maybe he is Dream Planner, so they might have just thrown those in there too. I think this is probably going to be best for something aggressive that wants to pick the face option.
Yes. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Probably though. But I think there's a really good Elteros, is that how you say it? I believe in your Concede Discord. In the the Paradise Images section of the Discord. Kind of scroll up a little bit. They did post about what their best guess is to what the pool's cards are. I think that's a really good resource for people to look at, because honestly, from looking at what they posted, it seems pretty likely that those make sense. So I would say that's a good place to at least start to kind of get an idea of how those might be put into different buckets. And then, of course, once the card's out, and you can kind of test and explore it for yourself and see what it gives you with the different options. But that could be a good place to start. It shows the screenshot of all the related cards and then kind of breaks it down by what they think.
Yeah. And I think we forgot to mention the names of the groups. They're listed as well. So you've got the Modest Tour. Get 2 random cards that can potentially impact the enemy's battlefield. The Extravagant Tour. Get 2 random cards that can potentially spend a lot of mana. And the Hectic Tour. Get 2 random cards that can potentially deal damage to the enemy hero. So, the fact that it's a 3 mana 3/2 instead of a 2 mana 2/2 or 2 mana 3/2, I think is maybe a bigger deal than it might seem, just because a lot of the expensive things you're definitely not going to be able to play that turn, even if you're on 10 mana. Some of the clears, right? If you get Twisting Nether and need to play it that turn, so you were hoping for a Flame Strike, you're out of luck. It's gonna be finicky since it doesn't do any of that reading game states, which is good. I'm glad they didn't, program another crazy card like that. That was I think a lot of work for them. But yeah. Oh man, Ice Block is in here.
Yes, it is.
That's going to upset some people.
Yes, it is in there.
Wait. But what pool is that in? Potentially. Huh. Because it doesn't spend a lot of mana or impact the enemy's battlefield. Huh. Okay. Well, just have to think on that.
I think from what I've seen, I saw somewhere they put it as spending a lot of mana because
It keeps you alive.
yeah, it essentially would give you like another turn, so that would be like another 10 mana.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I'd buy it.
roundabout thinking.
You know what just occurred to me, which it's always Druid, but yeah, since they can go over 10 mana, right? They can play this and play whatever expensive option or clear they need. So I feel like Druids, especially Highlander Druids, are going to run this as like a way of getting a clear that they usually can't get. Because they usually don't need help in the value department, but they would not say no to a Twisting Nether or a Flame Strike or what have you. I don't know. It's one of those where like I'm excited, but as always, I'm scared of what Druid is going to do with it. Speaking of, we have one last neutral legendary here that feels to me like basically a Druid legendary. Travel Master Dungar, a 9 mana 3/3 battle cry. Summon 3 minions from your deck that are from different expansions.
He's fun. I like it.
I just again, this is one of those like I hope this is bad because it it's just like it's so weird.
It is.
I mean, a lot of the druids are ramping with Whelp, which is a minion. So like this is back to the days of like you want a really spell heavy deck. There used to be a card that was also a neutral legendary, but it was 9 mana. I don't remember the stats, but they didn't matter. Called like Master Oakheart, where you would summon a 1, a 2, and a 3 attack minion from your deck. And Druid would do this to summon it was like the Enchanter that was a 1/5 that doubled your end of turn effects, and a 9 mana 2/4 that would recruit a dragon from your deck. And of course, they were all big dragons. And then the 3 cost was just something that was a big taunt. I don't remember. But yeah, this reminds me of that, where I feel like if it's played, it's gonna be something in that vein. But I just from 3 different expansions is just gonna be so weird.
Yeah, that's one thing that like now I'll actually have to check my decks and like look at what expansion the cards are from, and I'll have to pay attention to that instead of just putting them in, or I'll have to think about it during games. But there could be some cool potential with this. I know I feel like the little videos they always show are like kind of try to show some of the best cases, but
Mhm.
the little video it showed it being played in Hunter and it pulling out like King Mukla to rush into a minion and King Plush to charge into face plus another big beast, and it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. But I don't know, like, is there something that maybe you can play this in like I'm gonna bring it up again, like the Death Rattle Mech Warrior. Maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe you can play this in like a Highlander deck.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's tricky because the line that you always have to walk with these types of decks is you want few enough of the targets that you don't draw them, but enough of them so that if you do draw them, there's still stuff to get recruited out of your deck. And that's always kind of a fine line to walk. And ideally you want to be able to like, you still need to find Travel Master Dungars. You need like some kind of draw, ideally like targeted draw.
And you need things to stay alive until that point.
Yeah. So I don't think this is going to be like that heavily played by it. It's interesting, and I'm sure people will try it.
Yeah. He's a fun card. Don't know how competitive it'll be, though.
But that is all. So, before our episode next week, we'll have gotten the mini set and gotten to play with it for a couple of days. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com. You can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Huge thank you to you, Dawn, for joining me. So we did not have to cancel the week's episode or me just talk about the cards for an hour, which would not have been that fun.
No, instead you got to hear my excitement about the hydration totem. No, yeah. Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Do you have any CoinConcede you'd like to give or shout outs, whatever?
Yeah. So I'm going to, of course, give a CoinConcede to you for having me on. It's always a pleasure when I get to join other podcasts. It's always fun to do these. I love doing podcasts and talking about these card games. So thank you. And I'm going to also give a special CoinConcede to Baystink and Linny for coming and joining me for that in-person bingo charity event, because that was a lot of fun and it was awesome having them in person and getting to hang out and stuff. So yeah, awesome.
And I should also CoinConcede to Magesa for still putting together the show notes, because I'm at this point I have not done the show notes for so long. This is great. She always makes great show notes, and I don't know what I would do without her. So thank you. So keep calm and cash in on those cows. And if you see us on ladder, CoinConcede.
CoinConcede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.